We spent a little time looking at the problem of how to define Jewish philosophy. Um, we're actually now going to approach this from a rather different angle. Think about the classic texts of Judaism. Here you've got an excerpt from the Torah. So the Torah, 5 books of Moses, part of the Hebrew Bible, so-called, the Tanakh. And here, just very briefly, a part of the Noah story. So Noah had 3 sons, the earth was corrupt and filled with violence, God saw the earth, it was corrupt, all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth, and God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, and so on and so forth, build an ark, and we all know the story, famous story. Take a look at the other classic text of Judaism. The other classic text at this point in time, remember we're in the 9th century, would be the Talmud. Here's the opening of the Talmud. From what time may one recite the Shema in the evening? From the time that the priests enter their houses in order to eat their terumah. And then, of course, that's just the Mishnah. The Gemara goes on to tell us about exactly how we define these various terms, etc., etc. Now, the point of this is that if you look at the classic texts of Judaism, you look at the Tanakh and the Talmud, these would be what informed the Judaism of 9th century Jewry. And the point is that neither of them seem to be doing philosophy. They're far more concerned with laws and with stories. Judaism, at this point in time, is primarily a way of life. It's not really a theological or philosophical system. And certainly the Tanakh and the Talmud, for that matter, could be said to provide food for philosophical thought in the way it maybe speaks about God, in its reflection on the problem of evil in the book of Eov, in the book of Job. You'd hardly call it philosophy. You've read some philosophy over the last couple of weeks, and I imagine you can tell the difference between that and the kinds of stories and or laws that you find in the Tanakh and the Talmud. So the fact is, there wasn't really any Jewish philosophy at this point in time. Now, there is one exception to this that we should mention for the sake of completion. Somebody called Philo of Alexandria, because he lived in Alexandria, or Philo Judaeus. Philo, as you can see from there, lived from 20 BCE to 40 CE, so he was a contemporary of Jesus. And he wrote a number of philosophical works, including on the eternity of the world and on providence. And he was the first Jewish thinker to really confront Greek philosophy. But his work kind of led to a dead end for Jewish philosophy. Jews forgot about it. The only reason we know about it is because the early church fathers preserved his work precisely because he was a contemporary of Jesus. So the fact is that here we are in the 9th century, and with the one exception of Philo, Jewish philosophy hasn't really got going yet. We've been going for over 1,000 years without it. So the obvious question to ask is, well, how and why did it suddenly begin? And it's to that question that you're now going to turn.